Uncle Wolf originally wanted to leave tomorrow, but the seller who had no choice but to sell the daily number refused to give in to the price no matter how dead or alive. He could only wait for a while. At the same time, pray that the guy named Donald will not come to the door again. Uncle Wolf, you don't have to run away anymore. When Chen Tian heard this, he said in a deep voice. The purpose of my coming here tonight is to tell you that if you want to leave together, I won't care about one more person. Uncle Wolf ignored his words, and just said the purpose of coming here. After all, Donald must also be eyeing Chen Tian, naturally he can't leave the other party. After speaking, he took out the mobile phone ringing in his pocket, felt out a pair of freshly opened glasses, put him on, and squinted at the information. Chen Tian at the front desk also noticed the information in his hand, and he saw that the guest he was picking up seemed to be the Mexican woman Donald was looking for. It's just that Uncle Wolf doesn't know this, and he naturally won't refuse when he sees a guest who lacks money. You think about it, I can take you away with me then. Logan. Howlett took a sip of wine and turned to leave. I should be able to see the professor tomorrow. Chen Tian watched Chrysler disappear on the road. He took out the address given by Uncle Wolf earlier. If there is no miscalculation of tomorrow Donald's people, there will be a clash with Uncle Wolf on the Mexican border. After escaping the Mexican border, Professor Charles's abilities are out of control again, and it is the best time to pick up his psychic abilities. It looks like he can quit his job at a convenience store. The other side. Leave the gas station convenience store for Rogan. Howlett, rushing as fast as possible to a location on the Uber app. However, things seemed to be a little different from what he thought. Here he saw again the woman he had seen in the cemetery this morning, the Mexican woman Galilab whom Donald had called him, who apparently knew him and repeatedly begged him for help. He asks him to send a girl, Laura, to Canada, and Galilab claims that the Laura in his mouth is her daughter. Donald is her ex-boyfriend and the reason why the other party will hunt him down. At first, Uncle Wolf must have refused. He didn't want his life to be broken again, let alone get into this trouble, but when he saw the Mexican woman take out a stack of money, he was silent and then agreed. He needed that money. So he agreed to pick him up tomorrow and hurried back to an abandoned factory on the Mexican border, which was so old and rusty that even a train passing by not far away could make houses tremble. But it's safe, and no one will be eyeing a dilapidated place. At this time, in an abandoned water storage tank, the huge can fell down, and someone opened it to make a tight iron door. An elderly man in a wheelchair holds a sprinkler and constantly watering the vegetation on the tabletop, his elderly face full of markings. His hand holding the sprinkler trembled a little. At this time, he looked at Logan, who was sitting next to him wearing glasses, and smiled. You should wear more glasses, so that you look younger. Professor Charles said with a smile. Although he sometimes loses some memories of the past, he remembers in his mind that he has been since he met Rogan. Since Howlett, the other party has always remained young. Watching Logan grow old over the years, he has an indescribable taste in his heart. Hearing this, Logan held up the frame of the mirror, squinted at the information received in his hand, and said, Charles, first have to leave for a few days, and there is a long-distance big order. Quote. Professor Charles, who was in a wheelchair, paused in his hand, but there was no surprise, only that everything was expected. Logan didn't notice anything strange, and he said in a deep voice, after making this order, we will leave, and then we will go to live on the sea. Is that safe? Professor Charles didn't know what to say and asked. Safe. No one will disturb us. Rogan, do you remember what I said about the new mutants? Professor, we will leave soon, there will be no new mutants. Does Chen Tian know? He may be the last batch of mutants born in the old era more than 10 years ago. Logan sighed. The professor had been nagging lately, saying that he had seen a lot of new mutants being born. He also offered to save them. But for Uncle Wolf it was all over. Mutants were just God's mistakes, allowing them to be born without allowing them to continue. Chen Tian, he's special, but I'm not talking about him. Quote. Professor Charles looked a little confused, and he paused and continued. I know, but it's all over. There is no academy without cops, and even in decades there will be no mutants. Logan. Howlett shook his head, took off his glasses and carried the professor to the bed, turned away with a gloomy face. Professor Charles, who was lying on the bed, did not speak again. His eyes seemed to see something, and he muttered to himself, Laura, he will come to you tomorrow. Quote. Chapter 11. They are the ones who should go. A few beautiful knives can kill a person. Right now, in Gotham City, where there are many high-rise buildings, the thick clouds above have never dispersed, and the air is always filled with the smell of kerosene. Sinking into darkness as the sun falls. Gotham citizens have returned home one after another, especially in the slums, where many people cannot even ensure their livelihood, and they live in the lower floors to survive. The most intuitive feeling is to stand on a high place overlooking the city, half dark and half bright. Chen Tian is now standing on the high tower of the slum. Looking around the scene around the slum. Gotham, really, heaven and hell coexist. He sighed in an emotional tone. After the convenience store closed tonight, he saw that the time had already been teleported to DC Gotham through the dimension. And he was naturally interested in the world of the same American comic giant. What's more, compared to the abilities that Marvel can get here, it is obviously more powerful. Simply take Marvel 1999 as an example. He currently has no access to high-dimensional existence, and there is a bug in the 600th world, that is, Superman Clark. Kent's power, more accessible. But finding Clark isn't easy. Metropolis is one of the largest cities in the United States, and it's obviously hard to find someone among all the universities in the Met. Unless, like a professor, with psychic abilities. Finding a target person telepathically will become easier. It's just that Chen Tian hasn't met the professor yet, and Clark's affairs can only be done later. Bang! At this moment, Chen Qian keenly noticed that in the alley not far away, there was a sound of cursing and fighting. Although he does not get the ability of Uncle Wolf in terms of physical fitness, he is a mutant himself, and his body is different from ordinary people in all aspects. Which is also the reason for punching Batman. He followed the sound and ran towards the alley, and after a while he saw the situation in the alley. I saw that a figure dressed in all black was fighting with two robbers, next to a mother and daughter curled up in a corner in horror. Obviously they were the targets of the robbery. Gotham never sympathized with the weak, and the survival of the fittest was vividly reflected in the city. Looking at the man in black, he is a fledgling Batman, his clothes are thicker than last night, and the weapons he carries around his waist are richer. The two robbers on the opposite side were not opponents at all, and they were knocked to the ground in a few breaths. The two of them lay on the ground with hideous faces and groaned in pain. One of them's hand was once broken. It seems that Batman will not kill, but he will never be soft on criminals. And directly beat him into a cripple. You're safe, Bruce. Wayne turned his head and said to the mother and daughter who were huddled in the corner. Thank you. The mother and daughter walked out in fear, and they hugged each other to thank each other. Bruce standing opposite. Wayne looked at their shabby coats, his eyes showing mixed emotions. He thought for a moment to take some beautiful knives from his pocket and hand them to the thin mother. This is for you. Quote. However, the thin mother did not answer, but directly chose to take her daughter and turn away, and her eyebrows revealed fear. Bruce. Wayne clenched the dollar bill in his hand, not understanding why the other party was afraid of him, and they did not even dare to take the money from his hand. As he was out of his mind, there was a sound of landing behind him, followed by a familiar and unfamiliar voice. Young master, go home, this place is not for you. It's you. Bruce Wayne will not forget his death. He remembers the owner of the voice vividly, and turns his head to see that it was really the yellow-skinned boy from last night. He said coldly, you smuggled from the east. I didn't find any archives about you. It's ridiculous, there are so many people in this city who can't find their identities that they can't be counted on their hands. Sir, do you really know Gotham? Chen Qian is very interested in the role of Batman. He can be regarded as one of the few characters in the American comic world, with great personal charm. If he were to be the master more than 10 years later, he would probably not be able to play. But the old man is just a beginner, and he naturally has to get along well when he has the opportunity. What the hell do you mean? Bruce Wayne sank his heart and stopped showing anxiety. He thought he should hear what the yellow-skinned boy in front of him said, maybe as Fu said. There are people who know Gotham better than him. If you gave the dollar bills to the mother and daughter just now, if you are lucky, you may see tomorrow an orphan who has lost his mother, or two corpses that have fallen in a stinking gutter. Chen Qian's tone was indifferent, but the content sounded extremely cold. Hearing this, young Bruce Wayne was stunned and felt absurd, just for those beautiful knives. Will they have two lives? Because this is Gotham. Chen Qian has seen the Gotham described in the comics, and missing people can usually be found in some stinking gutters, and similar things happen every day. First chapter, previous chapter 8, 186, next chapter, epilogue, table of contents.